She thought she'd buried the past, until the man who shattered her heart pulled up beside her at a crosswalk and locked eyes with the baby in her arms. His face went pale. Her grip tightened. One look, and he knew the truth she tried to hide. But what happens when secrets come back not just knocking, but threatening everything? If you're new to the channel, don't forget to subscribe, like the video, and tell us where you're watching from in the comments. Now let's jump into the story. The morning was bitter cold, the kind that crept through coats and settled deep into bones. Clara Reynolds stood at the edge of a quiet crosswalk, shifting from one foot to the other to keep warm. Her scarf was pulled up to her chin, but the icy wind still found a way to nip at her cheeks. She rocked gently from side to side, cradling her baby, Liam, in her arms. He was bundled in a thick navy blanket, his tiny face barely visible beneath a wool hat. Liam let out a soft sigh in his sleep, his tiny fist pushing out from the blanket. Clara adjusted the hat over his forehead with shaking fingers. Whether they trembled from the cold or from nerves, she wasn't sure. The early morning, streets of Eastbridge were mostly empty. A few cars passed by slowly, their headlights casting long shadows across the damp pavement. Shop windows remained dark, and the only sound was the low hum of a city waking up. Clara didn't usually take the bus this early, but her job interview had been rescheduled at the last minute. She hadn't wanted to leave Liam with anyone. Trust was a fragile thing, and hers had been broken too many times in the past year. She glanced down the street searching for the bus. It wasn't there yet. She bounced Liam lightly, humming a lullaby under her breath. Then a familiar sound cut through the silence, the soft purr of a high-end engine. Clara turned her head slowly, her heart already sinking before she saw it. A sleek black car pulled to the curb just ahead. Its polished surface gleamed even under the gray sky. Her breath caught as the door opened and a tall man stepped out. He wore a long wool coat tailored perfectly to his lean frame. His hair, dark brown and neatly styled, was untouched by the wind. His shoes clicked softly against the sidewalk as he walked. But it wasn't his appearance that made Clara freeze. It was his face. Noah Harrington, the man who had once held her heart with gentle hands, the man who had promised forever, then disappeared without a single word. Clara's arms tightened instinctively around Liam. She wanted to look away, to vanish into the ground, to run, but her feet wouldn't move. Her breath came faster, her chest rising and falling in shallow gasps. Noah didn't notice her at first. His eyes scanned the street, detached and focused. He looked like he always did. Calm, controlled, unreadable, until his eyes landed on her. Time stopped. The wind quieted. The cars seemed to fade into silence, and for a moment it felt like only the two of them existed in the world. Noah's eyes narrowed slightly. His gaze drifted down to the small bundle in her arms. He took a slow step forward, his expression unreadable, but something flickered behind his eyes. Confusion, disbelief, and something else. "Clara?" he said finally. His voice quieter, then she remembered, like he wasn't sure she was real. Her throat tightened. She hadn't heard him speak her name in over a year. It felt like opening an old wound. "Noah," she replied, her voice low and cold. His eyes locked onto hers, searching. "Is that your baby?" She didn't blink. "Yes." His jaw tensed. "Is he mine?" The words hung in the air like frost, sharp and fragile. Clara looked away for a moment, then back at him. "That's not your concern." Noah stepped forward again, slower this time, like he was afraid of scaring her off. "I didn't know, Clara, I swear I didn't know." "You didn't want to know," she snapped, her voice rising. "You walked away. No calls, no letters, just gone." He flinched at her words. His hands stayed at his sides, but his shoulders slumped ever so slightly. "I thought I was doing the right thing," he said quietly. "For both of us." Clara laughed, but it was bitter. "Right for you, maybe. I spent months wondering what I did wrong, And when I found out about Liam, her voice cracked. You made me face it alone. A bus pulled up behind her, its brakes hissing. Clara turned slightly, repositioning Liam in her arms. I have to go, she said, stepping toward the open door. Are you with someone? He asked suddenly. Clara paused and turned her head slightly. Her face gave away nothing. Yes. Noah's face fell. He nodded once, lips pressed into a hard line. Take care, Clara. She didn't respond. She stepped onto the bus and moved to the back without looking back. Outside, Noah remained on the sidewalk, his hands clenched in his coat pockets. The bus pulled away, but he didn't move. His thoughts swirled like the wind around him. But one image stayed frozen in his mind. The baby's eyes. Dark like Clara's, but familiar. Storm gray. Just like his. And for the first time in a long while, Noah Harrington felt afraid. He had walked away from Clara before, but now he wasn't. Sure he could. Noah Harrington sat alone in his office, the city stretching out behind him like a cold ocean of steel and glass. The sun had barely risen, but he'd already been there for hours, staring at his reflection in the glass, trying to make sense of what he had seen that morning. Clara and the baby. A baby who might be his. Noah rubbed a hand across his face and stood up. His usually neat desk was scattered with papers and an untouched cup of coffee that had long gone cold. He couldn't stop thinking about the child's eyes. So familiar it hurt to remember. There had been a time when Clara's laugh was the sound he lived for. He still remembered the way her hands felt in his, how she used to lean on his shoulder and whisper her hopes for the future. They had built dreams together, and he had walked away from all of it. He told himself it was the right decision. At the time, he had been drowning, buried under the pressure of taking over his father's company, dealing with lawsuits, managing a fractured family legacy. He thought stepping away from Clara would protect her from the chaos. But seeing her again had unraveled every lie he told himself. Noah pressed a button on his desk. Jonas, can you come in? A moment later, the door opened and in stepped Jonas Carmichael, his assistant and the only person who had stuck by his side for the past 2 years. Jonas was sharp, quiet, and fiercely loyal. You all right, boss? Jonas asked, raising an eyebrow. I need you to find someone, Noah said, trying to keep his voice even. Her name is Clara Reynolds. I need to know where she's been this past year. Jonas didn't ask questions. He nodded and disappeared out the door. Meanwhile, across town, Clara sat on the floor of her small living room, gently bouncing, Liam on her lap. The apartment was modest, 1 bedroom, old furniture, and a kitchen that always smelled faintly of coffee and baby formula. But it was safe. Quiet. Hers. Liam giggled as she tickled his tummy, and for a moment all the noise in her head faded. But it didn't last. The memory of seeing Noah again was a weight she couldn't shake. She hadn't expected to run into him, and certainly not with Liam in her arms. She hadn't been prepared for the shock in his face, or the way his voice still made her heart twist. And she had lied about being married. She didn't even know why the words had come out. Maybe to protect herself, maybe to push him away before he had a chance to hurt her again. Or maybe, deep down, she'd wanted to hurt him too. Just a little. The way he had hurt her. Her neighbor, Mrs. Haley Morgan, knocked gently and stepped inside after Clara called out. The older woman had been like a second mother since Clara moved in. You look like you've seen a ghost, Haley said, setting down a small tray with tea and muffins. Clara sighed. Something like that. Haley sat beside her, taking Liam into her arms with practiced ease. Tell me. Clara hesitated. I saw Noah today. Haley blinked. Noah? The one who vanished? Clara nodded. Did he see the baby? Clara rubbed her arms, feeling suddenly cold. Yes, and he asked if Liam was his. Haley's eyes softened. And what did you say? that it wasn't his business. Haley raised an eyebrow. Is it not? Clara looked away. He left, Haley. Just disappeared. I tried for weeks to find him. Then I stopped. Because I had to survive. Haley nodded slowly. I understand, dear, but life has a way of circling back when you least expect it. That same moment, in his sleek, silent office, Noah stared at the screen in front of him. Jonas had delivered. Records showed Clara had been living in a modest area, working small freelance design gigs. No joint bank accounts, no shared lease, no wedding photos, no husband. The marriage was a lie. Noah leaned back, stunned. Why would she lie? Was it to keep him away? His thoughts were interrupted by the buzz of his phone. His sister Delia was calling. He almost didn't answer. But Delia had always been the one person who saw through his silence. Hey, he said quietly. You sound like a storm cloud, Delia replied. I ran into Clara. A pause. Oh. And? She has a baby. Another pause. She told me she's married, but Jonas found no record of it. And the baby? Delia's voice dropped to a whisper. You think he's yours? I don't know, Noah said, standing to face the skyline. But I need to find out. I need to see her again. Then go, Delia said gently. If he is yours, you both deserve the truth. Noah nodded, eyes burning with a mix of fear and determination. Back in her apartment, Clara stared out the window, holding Liam close. What was left behind had come back, and she wasn't ready. The knock on Clara's door came just after sunset. She had just finished putting Liam down for a nap, the apartment wrapped in the kind of calm that only comes after a long, tiring day. She wasn't expecting anyone, which made the sound feel louder than it should have. Her heart jumped. She walked to the door, peered through the peephole, and froze. It was Noah. Again. Clara hesitated, her hand hovering above the doorknob. Part of her wanted to pretend she wasn't home, to avoid more hard conversations. But deep down, she knew that wouldn't solve anything. She opened the door slowly. Noah stood there, hands in his coat pockets, eyes unsure but steady. Hi, he said softly. Clara didn't answer at first. She stepped aside and motioned him in. The air inside the apartment felt warmer than usual, heavy with unsaid words. Noah walked in, eyes taking in the cozy but modest space. He noticed the folded baby clothes on the couch, the stack of baby books by the window, and a drawing pinned to the fridge, one Clara had made for Liam. I should have come sooner, he said finally, turning to her. I've been trying to figure out what to say. Clara crossed her arms. You don't need to say anything, Noah. It's in the past. But it's not, he replied gently. Not if Liam is my son. Clara looked away. He is, isn't he? He asked. The words felt like a gust of wind through an open window. Clara closed her eyes. Yes. Noah exhaled sharply, as though he'd been holding his breath for a year. She waited for him to speak, to yell, to cry. But instead, he just nodded. Okay, he said quietly. Thank you for telling me. She stared at him. That's it? For now, he said. I don't want to make things harder for you. Just then, another knock came, sharp and loud this time. Clara's stomach dropped, Noah's brow furrowed. Are you expecting someone? No, she said, her voice barely above a whisper. She opened the door a crack. Victor Langston stood there. His blonde hair was slicked back and his suit looked expensive, but his smile was thin and fake. He leaned in slightly as if he owned the air between them. Clara, he said with a smirk. I was beginning to think you were avoiding me. Clara's grip tightened on the door. What do you want, Victor? Victor's eyes drifted past her and landed on Noah. His smile faltered. Ah, company. Noah stepped forward. Who are you? Victor tilted his head, amused. Someone Clara owes. Clara's face flushed with shame. She stepped between them. Please, not now. Noah looked between them, his expression shifting. Clara, what is he talking about? Victor chuckled, stepping back. Don't worry. I'm not here to cause trouble. Just here to remind Clara of our agreement. Agreement? Noah repeated, turning to Clara. She looked down, her voice cracking. I borrowed money from him when things got bad, to pay for Liam's hospital bills and food. Victor folded his arms. And I was kind enough to help. But now it's time to return the favor. Favor? Noah's voice sharpened. Victor smiled. Let's just say Clara knows what I expect. Noah stepped forward, eyes blazing. If you're threatening her, I swear. Relax, Victor said, holding up his hands. I'm not here to argue. Just here to collect. She has until the end of the week. And with that, he turned and walked away, leaving a trail of tension in the room. Clara closed the door slowly, her hands shaking. Noah turned to her. Why didn't you tell me? Because you weren't there, Noah, she snapped. You left, I didn't know where to find you, and I didn't have anyone else. He flinched but didn't argue. How much do you owe him? Clara shook her head. It's not just the money. He wants control, he wants power over me. Noah's jaw tightened. I won't let him do this to you. She gave a short, bitter laugh. It's not your problem anymore. He stepped closer. Yes, it is. Liam is my son. And you matter to me more than I ever admitted. Tears welled up in her eyes. She looked away. You can't just show up and fix everything. I'm not trying to fix everything overnight, he said softly. I just want to help. Let me help. For a moment, she didn't answer. But then she nodded, just once. Noah placed a hand gently on her shoulder. We'll figure this out, together. Clara didn't know if she believed him yet, but for the first time in a long while, she didn't feel so alone. Snow fell softly outside the tall glass windows of Noah's office, covering the city below in a quiet, pale blanket. The world looked peaceful, but inside the room, tension was rising like steam from a boiling pot. Clara sat on the edge of the leather couch, gently rocking Liam, who dozed quietly in her arms. Across from her, Noah stood by his desk, phone in, hand speaking in a low, steady voice. He ended the call and turned to face her. They've started digging into Victor's background, he said. There's more than one person who's filed a complaint. Loans, threats, even blackmail. He's left a trail. Clara tightened her grip on Liam. And will any of that help us? I think so, Noah replied. But we have to be smart. Victor's already leaked that fake story linking me to him. That article is everywhere. Clara had seen it that morning. A bold headline splashed across her phone screen. CEO tied to loan shark's scandalous web. The photo of Noah and Victor shaking hands at a fundraiser from years ago was twisted to make it look like they were in business together. She looked up at Noah, her face pale. What if it ruins you? He shook his head. That's not what matters right now. But it could destroy your company. He took a seat beside her, his voice calm. Then I'll rebuild. But I won't let him use you or Liam as leverage. Clara's eyes shimmered with emotion. The man sitting beside her now wasn't the same one who had disappeared a year ago. This Noah wasn't running. He was choosing to stay, to fight. A sudden knock on the office door made them both jump. Jonah stepped inside, his face serious. He's here. Noah stood up. Send him in. Victor Langston entered the room with a smug expression, dressed in another perfectly tailored suit. He walked like he owned the place, every step deliberate, his eyes cold and sharp. Nice view, he said, glancing out the window. Shame it's going to be the last one you enjoy from this office. You're not going to get what you want, Victor, Noah said, folding his arms. Victor laughed quietly. I already have. Your name's in every news outlet. Your investors are panicking. One more push and the house of cards collapses. Clara stood up, keeping Liam close to her chest. Why are you doing this? Victor tilted his head. Because you owe me, Clara, and I don't like being ignored. Noah stepped between them. This ends now. Victor's smile faded. You think you can scare me with big words and suits? No, Noah said. But the police might. Just then, the door swung open again. 2 officers entered, firm and focused. One approached Victor and pulled out a warrant. Victor Langston, the officer said, you're under arrest for blackmail, fraud and unlawful lending practices. Victor's eyes widened. What? You heard him, Noah said. You've been watched for weeks. Every threat, every payment, every person you tried to control. It's all recorded. The second officer stepped forward and cuffed Victor. He struggled, his calm mask cracking. You think you've won? He growled. This isn't over. Oh, Clara said softly. Yes, it is. Victor was led out, the sound of the door closing behind him echoing like thunder through the office. The silence that followed was thick. Clara sat down slowly, her hands shaking. Liam stirred and gave a small yawn, unaware of the storm that had just passed. Noah sat beside her, his voice low. It's done. You're safe. Clara nodded, eyes glassy. Thank you. He looked at her for a long moment. I'm sorry I left. I thought I was protecting you, but I see now I was just protecting myself from being vulnerable. She let his words settle between them before answering. It hurt. More than I ever expected, but I had to keep going. For Liam. I want to be part of his life, Noah said. If you'll let me. Clara hesitated, then slowly nodded. We can take it slow. But yes, he deserves to know you. Noah's eyes filled with emotion. Thank you. They sat in quiet for a while, watching the snow fall. Later that evening, Noah walked Clara and Liam to the car. As he helped buckle Liam into the seat, the baby reached out and curled his hand around Noah's finger. Clara smiled. Looks like he likes you. Noah smiled back, a little teary. He has good taste. As they got into the car, Noah paused. Can I ask something? Clara nodded. When you said you were married, why did you lie? She looked down, then met his eyes. Because I was angry and scared, and I thought, if I made you believe I'd moved on, maybe I could actually start to. Noah didn't argue. He simply nodded, accepting the truth. The car pulled away slowly, the city glowing softly under the snow. Back in his office, Noah stood alone, hands in his pockets, watching the skyline. It wasn't the end, but maybe, just maybe, it was a new beginning.